self-awareness is not humanity's greatest evolution. It is its primary biological malfunction. We are the only species on this planet capable of conceptualizing a future that we are biologically guaranteed to lose. Look at a high-achieving executive in a corner office on the 45th floor. He is staring at a spreadsheet of 10-year growth projections. His career is at its peak, but suddenly there is a microtremor in his hand. It isn't the stress of the job. It is a split-second realization that strikes the nervous system. The numbers on that screen will outlive the hand clicking the mouse. He immediately minimizes the window and checks his email. This is a physical flight response. He is running away from a purely abstract threat. He is trying to bury a biological truth under a pile of digital noise. If consciousness was an evolutionary advantage to put us at the top of the food chain, then why does it drive us toward clinical despair? Why does the pinnacle of our intelligence lead to systemic nihilism? The actual fatal mechanism is hidden in our biology. We have become the only animal that can see its own end, and it is breaking us. But the reality is even more fractured. Humans exist in a state of dualistic dysphoria. We possess a symbolic identity that can contemplate infinity, but we inhabit a decaying body governed by the mechanics of a prehistoric fish. This is the brutal physical reality. Your prefrontal cortex developed the ability to simulate the future to help you find food. But it created a cognitive bypass. You didn't just find food, you found the undeniable fact of your own cessation. To prevent total physiological paralysis, the brain had to invent a defense. It builds symbolic immortality projects. Your religion, your career, the legacy you think you are leaving behind. These are not choices. They are survival mechanisms designed to suppress the terror of the biological worm. The human HPA axis is a relic. A gazelle only feels a surge of cortisol when a predator is physically chasing it. But your HPA axis is constantly triggered by abstract concepts. The thought of meaninglessness causes the same chemical wear and tear as a leopard's claws. You are under a perpetual, invisible attack. The predator isn't in the bushes. The predator is the architecture of your own thought. Watch closely how people react at a funeral. A man stands rigidly in his black suit. He adjusts his tie every 30 seconds. This is a displacement activity. He isn't just mourning the person in the casket. His brain is frantically checking his own symbolic markers. He feels the fabric of his expensive suit. He thinks about his social standing in the room. He is desperately reaffirming his existence against the evidence of the corpse. The corpse is the biological truth. The tie is the symbolic lie. But the more we achieve symbolically, the more the tension grows. We build empires to hide our fragility. Yet every brick we lay only increases the fear of the inevitable physical collapse. The higher the pedestal, the more terrifying the realization that it stands on dirt. But here is the brutal physical reality. Our modern world has only made it worse. The scientific and industrial revolutions did not just bring us safety. They systematically dismantled our psychological immune system. We have traded the merciful ignorance of our ancestors for a lethal light of facts. We now understand the scale of the cosmic microwave background. We know the mathematical inevitability of the heat death of the universe. This knowledge is a toxin to the human dopamine system. Why hunt for meaning when the ultimate end state of the universe is total entropy? Your brain is not designed to process the scale of 1 billion years. But you are forced to try. We are trapped in a hyper-awareness loop. Modern technology has turned the world into a massive cognitive mirror. In the past, you only felt the pain of your tribe. Now, your mirror neurons are firing for global tragedies 24 hours a day. You see a war crime on your screen, then a luxury car advertisement, then a scientific breakthrough about a black hole consuming a star. Watch a person scrolling through their feed. Their pupils dilate and contract in a frantic, microscopic rhythm. The brain is being hit with conflicting survival signals it cannot reconcile. The result is actionable impotence. You see everything. You control nothing. This leads to a physical state of decision paralysis. The user eventually locks their phone and stares at the black screen. That reflection in the dark glass is the new reality. It is a flight into a new dark age. We have maximized our physical comfort at the cost of our soul's armor. The ancient myths kept us sane by limiting our view. Science has stripped away the walls of the cave. Now, we are standing naked in a cosmic vacuum. The actual fatal mechanism is that we are neurologically ill-equipped for the truth. We are chasing a light that is blinding us, and yet we still cling to the illusion of power. Our consciousness demands the role of the director, but the laws of physics relegate us to the role of a spectator. We believe we are the captains of our lives, but the brutal neurological reality is much colder. Data shows that the brain initiates a physical action long before the conscious self decides to move. The readiness potential fires first. The will follows. You are not the pilot of the ship. You are the PR department in the basement. You are simply writing the press release for a decision that was already made by a subcortical machine. This is the absurdity of striving. We exhaust our biological resources fighting for control over a life that is largely automated. Watch a person in a high-stakes negotiation. They lean forward and narrow their eyes. They lower the pitch of their voice to exert dominance. Internally, their amygdala is screaming in primal fear. They are performing the director while being a slave to a fear response they didn't choose. They are a passenger pretending to steer a train that is already on the tracks. The more we try to manipulate our environment through rationalism, the more we fail. We build complex systems to stabilize our world global economies, digital infrastructures. But these systems become so complex, they trigger their own collapses. They become uncontrollable forces of nature. We are fighting a war against a universe that is indifferent to our tactics. We are the audience member standing up in the theater, screaming at the screen, trying to change a play that was written and filmed long before we arrived. So, where does that leave us? The solution is not to fix the paradox. The solution is to weaponize the awareness of your own futility. You must stop the pursuit of pathological self-awareness. It is time to move toward aesthetic self-awareness. Accept the physical survival laws, stop looking for cosmic meaning. It is a mathematical impossibility in a cold universe. Shift your focus to limbic satisfaction. Your biology does not care about your symbolic legacy. It cares about the tension in your muscles and the presence of your peers. Engage in physical craftsmanship. Lift heavy objects until your prefrontal cortex stops its abstract simulations. When the vista of reality becomes too terrifying, ground the body. Use extreme temperature or physical strain to force your brain back into biological regulation. This is the pursuit of the inch of movement. Like pushing a massive piece of stone, the joy is not in the distance the stone travels. The joy is in the flood of adrenaline caused by the attempt to move the unmovable. We are the only animals that know we are food for worms. Yet we are the only ones who choose to write poetry about the dirt. The deadly light of the truth is not going away. You cannot return to the ignorance of the forest, but you can choose to live within the paradox. The tension you feel is not a bug in the system. It is the system. Stop fleeing. Start looking closer. The paradox isn't a problem to solve. It is the only life you have.